sounds from the rhythm underground. Welcome to the We Love Guitar Nerds podcast, your place for all things guitar. We have your interviews, we have your lessons, your boomer discussions, and your verbal rabble-rousings. So please hit subscribe, share, and like to join our constantly growing musical community. We Love Guitar Nerds podcast, new season. We welcome Willie Phoenix from Columbus, Ohio, performer, guitarist. I call you like space rocker, but that's my own personal thing. Your blues, your rock, there's soul in there. There's all kinds of stuff. Thank you, Willie, for being a part of this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I dig the space rocker. I love the space rocker thing.
Okay, so that might be the new. Might be the new Willie.
Yeah.
So let's take this back to your earliest memories of music, and how did you get started with all this?
Okay. So both my parents were musicians, and way back in good old Marion, Ohio, my dad had always, he'd always played in one band after another, mostly his own and then other bands. Mm-hmm. And at one point, his band had done a New Year's Eve show someplace or whatever. And I was a big Elvis Presley kid. I really dug Elvis, man, And my parents would buy me the first of 78 Elvis things, the 45s. And so I had learned Hound Dog, you ain't nothing but, that whole thing. And I used to do it at my dad's rehearsals. I'd come in and, they'd have me, they're sitting around drinking and going, and the drummer might go, hey, Willie James, because that's what they call my dad. Yeah. And have your boy come in and do that little Hound Dog thing. He's going to be something one of these days. So at this New Year's Eve show.
So how old are we talking right now?
I'm talking about 5-6 years old.
Okay.
Right around there.
Okay.
And I got on stage at this New Year's Eve show. They got me on there. I was dressed in a little like kind of off-white suit. And they had bought me the Elvis Presley guitar that on the front had the Hound Dog that had Elvis on it, the plastic like thing.
Yeah.
And I had it around my neck and I knew all the moves, and they put the microphone down there and I performed Hound Dog with my dad's band, and they took up a collection and got me $15.
Wow.
Yeah, my first.
That is like 2022 wages. So
that was way winding tape.
This is pre-Beatles. Am I right?
No, I'm sorry. What?
This is pre-Beatles.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes. This is when you're talking.
I mean, the Beatles is a whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and even right before the Beatles, there was Chubby Checker. So I went into my twist phase, and I could do that twist, man. I just loved Chubby Checker.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the Beatles happened on Ed Sullivan, and I think I was just like I was floored. And I started trying to pick up the guitar again, and my dad was showing me stuff. Mm-hmm. And the next day at school, I remember it seemed like the whole school, everybody was into the Beatles, and bands were literally starting in the hallways near the lockers. Everybody was gonna be in a band, or you already had a band all of a sudden, right? But you had no band.
Yeah, right. You had no talent because you didn't know.
I wanted to get the girls.
Yeah, exactly.
We saw them screaming. We thought, oh, this is a good gig, right?
It's primal.
Yes.
So
yeah.
The Elvis we were talking about is like your kind of 50s Elvis that you
yes, late 50s, that 50, Mr. 56, that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. First generation rock stuff. Okay, and
Yes.
the Beatles. Yeah, so you're one of the Beatle kids, like who that changed everything overnight.
Oh yeah. 64, baby. Yeah.
So you're 64. Did you
In 1964.
were you playing guitar at that point? When was your
Yes, I was playing something. My dad, uh, he taught me guitar, and most of the stuff he was teaching me was so I could play uh, background for him, rhythm for him when he practiced. But it all worked out fine. Um, like Jimmy Reed stuff,
Mhm.
like that. Da-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-da-da, ba-da, ba-da.
Was your dad a blues guitar player?
Yes, he was
Mhm.
blues guitarist turned minister later on.
Okay. Okay. So okay, so your first gigs were like your first playing things were like. Did you play with your dad?
No, but it was more like he was teaching me pretty much and practicing at home, and he would have the background, you know,
Mhm.
from uh, my my guitar, the
All right.
guitar that he and my mom
Yeah.
purchased for me.
Yeah. And he was your kind of your. I guess he was your first teacher.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
That's
Matter
fun.
of fact, a lot of people, they go, "Oh, man, you're like Hendrix," and I think what they see a lot of times is the left-handed thing. Um, and of course, I'm black, but a lot of my style really is is my father. If you could hear my dad play, uh, or had heard him play, since he was my first big teacher, real teacher,
Mentor.
a lot of that style is
Hmm.
his.
Okay. That's okay. So now, uh, so when did you start having your first band?
Mm, okay, well, we go back to that whole Beatles thing. If you want to count,
Yeah.
um, yeah, if you want to count having a band during that British invasion,
Hmm.
the first British invasion. Um, I don't know the band. I think the very first band, as I recall, was called the Species,
All right.
and it was me. I think a kid named Dwight Jackson on drums, my cousin Mel McGarry on keyboards, and Lenny Jackson, Dwight's brother, uh, on guitar, as
Hmm.
well as myself.
Okay. What did you guys sound like? Who were you vibing?
Well, we sound like shit.
Okay.
Oh, wait, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, you are.
I'm just telling you the truth, man.
Yeah. All I want is the
Hey,
truth.
listen, let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened. The first band, uh, we went to the Marion County Fair because there was this radio show host that was really popular in Marion. Her name was Madge Cooper.
All right.
And my parents would listen to Madge, my mom, especially in the mornings. And I thought, man, I would love to be on the Madge Cooper show, right?
Hmm.
And so we found out she was doing her thing at the Marion County Fair. And so we alerted or told all of our friends, especially the girls at school, hey, we're going to be on the show, the Madge Cooper show at the Marion County Fair.
Hmm.
So we marched down there to the fairgrounds, and we had an audience, as I recall, a whole bunch of my classmates. Um, and we went into the auditorium, got into the auditorium where the show was live, and I went to the side of the stage. I talked to, I don't know, the person there, and told them that we were going to be on the Madge Cooper show. I mean, we're going to be on the show. I didn't know you had to be invited to be on the show. Um, so he went and whispered something in the Madge's ears, and he said, she wants you boys to wait out back. So we went out back, and by that time, of course, a lot of my classmates, the band's classmates were out there. And so Madge finally came out during a break, and she wanted to know, she wanted to know, well, what do you boys play? Now, mind you, we had brought 2 guitars. The drummer did not really have a drum kit.
All right.
He used to borrow one from his cousin.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a Quaker oatmeal box.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that you could put a bunch of Quaker oatmeal mini boxes in. And he set it up right, like a kick drum, right?
Kind of like skiffle.
Yeah, and he had his drumsticks.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Melvin, my cousin, did not have a piano or a keyboard that he could take, but they had one inside the hall. So she asked me, Lenny, and Dwight to play a song. So we played a couple songs, a couple things that we had written. And then she said, well, what about your piano player? Can you play? So we went inside and Melvin played the piano and he was pretty good. He was pretty good. So then in front of all of the classmates, which felt like the whole world, because that was my world.
Yeah.
She said, can you boys come back next year after you practice some more? And I'll tell you what, even on Facebook to this day, I have classmates that remember that. And it's so funny. I can laugh about it then, but back then I was like humiliated. I was thinking, we're great. And really,
your classmates probably did not think you were still super cool. They did not give you grief over it.
Well, I think I was trying to be cool. The cool guys, but look, when you're in the 7th grade, you're not as cool as the guys in the 9th and the 10th grade that have bands, right? But I was trying to march right alongside of them. Matter of fact, I had auditioned for a couple of those bands, it was one of the first songs where somebody asked, hey man, do you know about Van Morrison and the group Them? They have a song called Gloria.
Oh,
it's only 3 chords, so I learned that.
Heard that, yeah.
I learned that song.
Yeah, I think I've seen you play it.
Yeah, I love that song. It's the best garage song in the world.
Part of your space rock ingredient. And I'm dividing. I'm concocting this thing. Space rock, garage is an important element to that.
Right. I dig the hell out of Gloria, man. 3 chords, right? For real, 3 chords. Over and over. Of course, Satisfaction's 3 chords too.
Same 3 chords.
Yep. You can make a
throw a B7 in there. Throw a B7 in there.
Yeah. All of a sudden it becomes jazz.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they added a 4th chord.
Yeah. Oh, what happened? This is complicated now.
So okay, so what was the name of that? What was the name of that band?
The band was called The Species, and then later on, The Species also played in the Merriam Battle of the Bands. I think this might have been about 1966, 67, something like that. Yeah. But we played in the Merriam Battle of Bands, and of course we lost. But I always swore, I'm going to put together a really good groovy band and come back and kick butt. So right around 1974, I want to say 73 or 74, right around there. We put together this band, the Boppers, and the Boppers played 10 battles throughout Ohio. And of course, we came in first place every one of those battles, right? And then we got to go to, I believe it was South Carolina, to play in the national battles, Battle of the Bands, to represent Ohio. And at about 20 bands or so, we took first place for Ohio. So, yeah, baby. Had a big old trophy that was bigger than me, taller than me. And
this was who?
What's the name of the band?
The Boppers.
The Boppers.
And we did it. And here's the thing. all the bands were playing covers. I mean, even in the 10, just to get to that national battle, they're all playing covers, and we would go in, and all we did was my songs,
Mm-hmm.
and
You were
we kicked their butts.
you were writing songs from ground zero.
Yes, yes,
It was always a thing.
yes.
You
I
learned,
mean, I always thought that's why I'm not a great guitarist, because all my friends, they would hear records and they would try and copy the guitar licks, and I would hear records. I want to know what really makes this record move.
mm-hmm. Well, that's a
And,
producer.
and for me, it was always the song,
Yeah.
having the hook. You know.
That's kind of like a producer's ear.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you're right. But you know, like I always said, the Beatles taught bands how to write songs,
Yes.
or that they should write their own song. And I was hooked ever since.
I think they provided the prototype that everybody, whether they willingly or whether you know it or not, you don't have to like the Beatles.
Right.
But they did.
Right.
They provided the prototype that everybody after followed.
Well, even writing the Rolling Stones first single, "I Want to Be Your Man," you know.
Yeah.
And then the Stones said, "Hey, wait a minute, we can do that."
Hey, these guys are making money off of writing their own songs, because prior to that, they were recording albums that were cover songs.
Yes. So, but anyways, we won that battle, and out of about 20 bands, I also won the first place trophy individually for best performer.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
You're taking your Elvis moves to a new level.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay, so this is, where does Little Eric come in on this?
Okay, so we back up from 73, 74. Little Eric came around, about 69, into the 70s a bit. And that's a band that went to Canada. Now, you know how, can I tell you how that band started?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, my drummer and I, we had just gotten out of a band, and we were sitting around at my parents' house on a Sunday night, and I get this call from this guy. We called him Shorty Long. Don't ask me why, but we called him Shorty Long, and he was a keyboard player.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Hey man, I'm putting together a band." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. Well, I heard you guys have broken up the other band." I'm like, "Yeah, okay. And what kind of band?" He goes, "Well," "we're gonna do covers." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, why don't you come over for a jam?" Well, the covers he wanted to do was Bee Gees. He loved Bee Gees, and this guy could sound. Now, get this. Hold on here. He sounded like Barry Gibb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but he looked like Jim Morrison.
Okay.
Okay. So, you know, you look at this guy and you think, oh, you're going to do Doors. He's playing keyboards. And he had the Morrison look, the leather pants and everything. But he sounded like Barry Gibb.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, we all go over there, me and my drummer. And I find out he doesn't have a band yet. Okay. So, but he had invited a bass player. And the guy's name was Jim Cummings, and we later called him Cosmo Cummings. And what happened was we're at Shorty Long's house. We're all starting to jam, get into some grooves, and then his wife at the time would call him into the bedroom, call him into the kitchen, call him to the basement, yelling and all this stuff. So finally, it was like, I don't know, it was like about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And he just disappeared for a while. And he comes back and goes, "Hey, if you guys want to practice a little bit more, go ahead, but just lock up." And we're like, "What?" And so my drummer had had told Kaz, the bass player,
Mhm.
you know, Willie's got a suitcase of songs that he keeps beneath his bed. He's into original songs. So Kaz wanted to hear one or two, and we started jamming my original songs. And he goes, "We should put a band together. Forget this other stuff." And so that's basically what happened. And matter of fact, Kaz and I got together. It was the first time we had ever met. I had seen him in other bands, by the way. He was really good. He was a guitar player at that time, but he was going to play bass for me. We got together that night. Now, boy, these were the days. We got in his car and drove all the way to Detroit, talking, just all the way to Detroit,
Mhm.
you know, and just hanging out in a parking lot somewhere in Detroit, then back to Marion, Ohio. It was a weird thing, you know. And we put this band together, and we found management, and all of us already had fans in Marion, and we found this management, and they got us to Canada, where we stayed for about 2.5 years, almost on and off. You know.
This is a reoccurring theme in Ohio bands that I'm noticing that everybody it gets good management.
Yeah, good or bad.
Or
what it's worth. I mean,
yeah. What I'm saying, they're like a manager that isn't your parent.
right.
Real manager.
Right.
Like, so just about all the bands and all the people that is a reoccurring theme, that it's like that you get a manager, which is it's normal to you, but in every other place is like when you say if somebody has a manager, it is a guy who's just willing to work for free that tries to book the gigs.
Right. Well, our managers at the time had the two guys that we chose had just gotten out of the service, and one of them was still wearing some of his army shirts, and so we called him Sergeant Tom.
All right.
And his buddy, they had gone on the buddy system back then, you know, the Vietnam War and all this stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So you could go on a buddy system. And the other one, his partner was Dennis. And so these guys, they had connections, but the people they had the connections with, and I think this is probably even true for the really big bands when you dive into the background, the history. The management or the record companies had connections, well, to dope dealers, you know, let's say, you know, help move things along with radio stations and so forth. And our story was pretty much the same. I mean, our management, you know, they had connections with people, whereas at one point we even got in a little trouble with money that we owed to them. But then it was kind of like the dealers were like, "Oh, we don't want to hurt the band. We love the band. They come and see the band, but where's the managers?"
Right.
You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But in Canada, we toured with Ted Nugent. I mean, I had a chance to play with Elton John.
Is this why Ted was still Ted, or is this is this why Ted was a solo actor before?
Oh, the Canadian thing?
Yeah.
The Canadian thing was with the band.
Yeah, I know you were opening for Ted Nugent.
But Ted with his band, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, Amboy Dukes.
Yes, this was the time when he had the loincloth thing.
Yeah.
And the arrow thing. Shoo-hoo!
Yeah, I saw him 20 years ago. He still had it.
Oh, did he? Okay. Well, he's a great guitar player.
Yeah.
Darn sure. You know.
Yeah. So
yeah, we did that, and I had a choice between Ted and this unknown Elton John. And of course we chose Ted. And then later I heard the song. This is so funny. I'm like in my apartment in Canada at Rochdale College, because that's where we stayed. I'm listening to the radio, and the street lights, they're illuminating the snow that's slowly falling. And this song comes on, the most beautiful song I'd ever heard. And this voice is singing about your song. I hope you don't mind. I hope you don't. And it was this guy, Elton John. I'm like going, oh, wow, wait a minute. I want, and the next day I had to go right out and buy the record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is all little Eric that went to Canada.
Yes, that was little Eric.
Okay.
And everybody thought I was Eric.
Okay.
Go figure. But also I want to mention too that little Eric, I had recorded, that was my first album. It was called Eric. Also.
Can people find that? Or
I'm sorry?
Is that sufficiently hidden? On the internet, can people find that?
In places. I had got a call from a friend. Oh, this was a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And she had said, hey, you should go and look up on this link. And somebody had bought the Eric album. Brian, is there an Eric album back then? Somebody had bought the Eric album for a little over $2,000 online.
Really? Oh, that's...
Yeah. And then all of a sudden I get this call from a label that wanted to reissue the record. And here's the way it looked. The first, Eric, it's backwards. Is that? I don't know. Yeah. It's Eric, okay, with the picture. And then the label got a hold of me and wanted to know if I wanted to make any changes. And so I designed, or whatever, came up with this for today, the Eric album. And this one actually opens up.
That's better.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, but this is the one, the original copy, somebody paid over $2,000. And then I've seen it listed for $1,000, for $800. And I don't know,
That's all your songs? Most.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You're the main songwriter.
Yes.
Who were you inspired by as a songwriter?
I'll have to say, the Beatles, and a lot of the old blues guys like Willie Dixon, who wrote a lot of music for like people like Muddy Waters,
mm-hmm.
Howling Wolf, a lot of those classics. And, like a lot of people give Robert Johnson a lot of credit for writing a lot of blues songs that have become rock classics.
Yeah,
and that's true.
We were talking about this. How everybody cites Robert Johnson for Crossroads,
right?
But if you listen to Cream's Crossroads, they reinvented that song.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Yes, that's Robert Johnson was the initial vibe, but that they
right. Well, the same thing with same thing with Willie Dixon's material.
Yeah,
reinvention.
Half of Led Zeppelin 1 was Willie Dixon.
Yeah. What a whole lot of love. Yes.
How many more years?
Yeah, Howling Wolf. Yeah.
Yep.
How many more years?
But I think that Willie Dixon wrote that. I think.
Did he write that one?
I think all those he wrote for Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, all those guys.
Right.
That's what I hear, and I don't know.
Okay.
Other people say that he just copyrighted it because they were songs that were passed around. Blues. He put his name on it.
Well, the blues was a lot like that, and it's a lot like that today. Like, for instance, a lot of those older blues guys would hear somebody else do something, and they would just change the lyrics.
Yeah.
And use the same melody. And even today, blues doesn't have that kind of variation that rock we've been accustomed to with rock music. In other words, a lot of the blues, I hear a lot of things today from some of the younger and new blues people that you can still sing Little Red Rooster to it.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I mean, and that's just the blues. That's the way, that's just the blues.
Yeah, rock in its inception was a mixture of everything, and it was
right. Yeah,
it was meant to continue mixing. It was not meant to be a snapshot in time that we have to recreate this forevermore.
Right. right,
But the blues was absolutely essential to all that because that's kind of what teaches you how to play and how
right, right.
the soul,
Well, it's
the
the
soul of rock
blues.
and roll.
The blues was kind of like old country music, which I dearly love. But then they found a way. Nashville found a way of taking from the old country music and refashioning, everything, remaking, so that new country didn't have to, did not have to have a pedal steel guitar
Yeah.
in. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like blues, people think of what's the instrument? The harmonica, a lot of times.
Uh-huh.
So, and I think that's what's got to happen with blues. Um, and I think some of it is happening where it's going, I want to say, into the future by looking back to that British invasion thing, like what you were talking about, like Queen taking Robert Johnson's Crossroads and reworking it, and it still had that blues vibe.
Yeah.
And younger people said, "Oh yeah, I like the blues."
But the British invasion, the other part of that is they put a spotlight on people that were not being noticed as much anymore.
Absolutely, you're right. You're right.
At the time the British invasion was happening, Muddy Waters was I was working as a janitor, and
Yes, at chess.
he was doing all these like the maintenance man at chess.
Right,
And
right,
all these
right,
guys were like they had their second jobs that their career kind of came and went, and then
right,
the British invasion, all these guys they're copying all their songs and their style.
right,
So
right.
so the
Well,
buttons.
the buttons.
The buttons.
Oh, the buttons. The buttons.
What were they like?
So the buttons. Wow. The buttons had a pretty good little career in a way. Um, the Buttons was a band that I put together because I was like just really in love with the whole punk rock scene that had not yet touched, for instance, Columbus, Ohio, but it was still really happening.
So when
in
did you
New
move?
York.
When did you move to Columbus? When did you?
About 75.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Buttons came around about 77. We were first called the Romantic Noise, and we did a 45 under that name. And then because of the Romantics, when we would go to New York City, people were getting us mixed up with them and vice versa. So when we came back, our last CBGB show, we came back. I told the band, we're changing the name, and they agreed. So we chose the Buttons. And the Buttons had gotten written up by Variety magazine, Rolling Stone, Circus. It was kind of a media darlings band for new bands.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, that whole CBGB thing came about for the Buttons was I called up, again, the good old days when somebody could make a phone call to a real famous club or a real famous happening and get the person you wanted right there. I talked to Hilly Crystal,
Yep.
the owner of CBGB.
Yep.
And I told him, I said, look, I want to come and play your club. And I told him about my band, and he said, well, okay. He goes, we're really booked up right now, so maybe in 2 months. I go, well, wait a minute. I said, I do an acoustic thing too. And he goes, yeah, Willie, I don't think you understand it. These bands are loud and they're fast. I said, my acoustic playing is really loud and fast and heavy, which it was. I was doing some solo stuff outside of the band. And this is way before Annie DeFranco or whatever.
Right.
But it was like, yeah. And I had the dreadlock thing going, And so Hilly decided to take a chance. He said, I want you to come to New York and opened for a band that's from Ohio. He said, "You ever heard of the Dead Boys?" And I said, "No, I never heard of it." So when I got there, man, I had like about $100 outside of my round trip ticket, Greyhound ticket, and my acoustic guitar, my old Framus acoustic, and it was a different world. All of a sudden, all these people had leather jackets, different color hair, safety pins in their arms and cheeks. I was like, wow. And here I was in a flannel shirt and blue jeans.
Right.
And thank God for Talking Heads. That's exactly what they were wearing.
Yeah.
But, I got to meet Steve Baders, Cheetah Chrome. And those guys took a liking to me.
From the Dead Boys.
From the Dead Boys. And they wanted to know if I needed a place to stay, I could stay with them. Man, but it was kind of fearful because they were slapping their girlfriends. The girlfriends were slapping them at the table. And, I'm a corn-fed Ohio boy from Columbus. So I'm like, well, I've never seen anything like this, And they were throwing chairs. I mean, seriously. But I did my opening act thing on acoustic to a packed house, and people just loved it. They just loved it. And Hilly booked the band a lot sooner for the next month.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in, and that started a whole thing with the Buttons. He had several producers come in, and we chose Genya Raven. She chose us. You know who Genya is, right? From 10 Wheel Drive, from the band 10 Wheel Drive from the 60s and so forth.
Right.
And she produced the band for Mercury, and the record got shelved, but we did it at Sterling Sound in New York. She produced the band.
Okay. Is that, do you have a copy of that? Or is that, you said it was shelved?
No, I've got some tapes somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
All this would be wonderful.
Yeah, that would be cool to have that. But I do have we've got Buttons 45, right? Where is it? Is it back here? Buttons 45. Buttons 45. Oh, see, back here is all the. You probably can't see all the records. Yeah.
Of the
Anyways, the Buttons did. Yeah, they're all back here. By yeah, the Buttons did a thing on blue vinyl. It was called Blue Bicycle, and the flip side was called Hey Little Girl, which is very Who-ish, the whole idea behind it.
Yeah.
But the Buttons, we also did an EP, 78 Affair. But here's a, probably can't even see it because of the light.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There
it is. There it is.
Yep.
There it is. Oh, upside down.
Blue Boy.
Oh, backwards. The Buttons. The Buttons. Hey. Yeah. And Romantic Noise, which later became Buttons. 78 Affair. That's an EP. This is the band. Oh wait. You got some. What is this? Oh, you've got it outside of the thing.
So is this?
I was going to show them the
Is it from your own personal collection?
Yeah, we're in the process of putting together a Willie Phoenix anthology.
Okay.
So we have all sorts of. How many, Brian? How many? Better than 40, probably. Yeah. Better than 40 disc or whatever or something.
Okay.
Over the years,
Yeah.
They're listed on discogs.com. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Discogs.
So Willie Phoenix was signed to A&M.
Yeah, he was. Who told you?
You did.
Wait, we don't want to talk about that. I told you that?
Yeah.
Are you sure it was me?
You put it in here. I'm wearing it right here.
Oh, well, okay. It might have been my really stunt double.
Okay, how about this is my you consult with my lawyer.
Oh yeah. Hey, wait a minute. Hey, Brian. He said it's okay.
Okay.
All right. Yes, I was signed to A&M.
Okay, so what was that Buttons like, or is it garagey, or what was it, space rock or something?
Oh hell no! The A&M record. Uh, here we come with this A&M record thing. Uh, the A&M record. This is the album. Okay, it was taken. The cover was taken in San Francisco at the Museum of Fine Arts or Palace of whatever arts, and this is the 45. A&M, okay, the A&M band was really different, man. It was really hard Midwestern cornfield rock. I mean, some of the reviewers would say, "Oh, he's got that kind of Springsteen-y kind of gravelly voice." Well, that voice is actually my gospel voice. I grew up singing in the gospel choirs, and so the male vocalist had to put it out there. The Otis Redding
microphone.
Yeah. And but that band that did that album could really throw down.
Where did you record that?
We recorded it in Los Angeles at 3 different studios. I'm trying to remember all the Village Recorders was one. And I know I got to meet the guys in Poco.
Okay.
Used their drum kit and recorded at Sound Castle Studios. That was the other one. I can't remember the third. It might have been A&M Studios, whatever. But
now, who was your backup band?
it was just
were they studio dudes?
Well, it was guys from Columbus and Marion. It didn't really have a name.
Okay, so you got signed. You got signed, and
yes.
you brought the people with you. They didn't.
Right.
They didn't sign you like you were Michael Jackson, and they're gonna.
Yeah. They're
gonna produce you.
Yeah, Michael Jackson. Yeah, that was me. That was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
All right. Why not? No, when you get to A&M though, what I'm saying is it wasn't. They didn't. Did they try to spit and polish you?
Well, yes and no. And the yes part is that they didn't really, I felt, allow the band to be as gritty and grungy and as dark and filthy Columbus High Street as we were. For real. That all of our fans and people loved. And they cleaned it up a bit. And to me, that bit was just a little too much, but the record has stood the test of time.
All right. Okay. Now, explain to everybody, you say the Columbus High Street.
Yes.
High Street sound, or the grittiness. What does that mean? Like,
well, I mean,
Columbus.
We love turning up our guitars to at that point where the vocals are almost engulfed, where the vocals are really competing. And I think some people would say that's kind of like the early punk rock kind of thing, where you got it.
It was awesome.
And that's basically where I'm from, like the whole Buttons thing. We would play so fucking loud to where I have this piece of tape on a reel, and I had not played this reel of tape. Oh man, let's see, for probably almost 40 years. And on the tape, we're playing this bar, the Buttons are playing this bar called Mr. Brown's Descent in Columbus. And I played this thing like about 3 or 4 years ago. I played it, and all of a sudden in between, I could hear, where the manager, the owner of the bar, told the waitress, he said, "You tell them to turn that fucking music down, or else I'm gonna get my gun."
All right.
Is that kind of loud?
That's
And I had never heard that.
High Street.
I never heard that.
Okay.
It was in the left channel.
Okay.
So, winding forward here with the A&M record, that's where I was from, and the band was from that. I mean,
Yeah.
they were all good players.
Yeah.
But we like that volume.
Yeah.
You know, we love that volume thing, and our fans loved it. That was
that was part of. Well, that goes back to the garage stuff.
Yes,
The
yes,
garage influence.
Yes, it does. It
Garage
does.
influence.
You know, I'm more comfortable in that scene.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I saw you, that's what it was.
Thank you.
That's what it was. That's what. Yeah, it was. It was a religious experience.
Yeah. Well, and it's fun. You know, it's fun. You know, it's fun.
So okay, so one album came from A&M, or did you have more?
Only one. We were supposed to have two, and I don't know. Maybe they decided to cut what they might have deemed their losses. I don't know. But the album, all the papers, including this Circus magazine. I mean, they were all like giving it 4 stars. You know, they couldn't really. The funny thing is, they couldn't really figure out exactly what it was, but it seemed like by giving it those stars, the reviewers loved it. You know, or dug the record. One reviewer had called it a Trojan horse of a record. You know, somebody out of Boston.
Okay. Well, that's a kind of a.
I kind of like that.
That's
always remember that. I'm sorry.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, I really like it. Stuck in my brain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this post punk? This is at the tail end of punk, into the 80s.
Tail end. Yeah.
Okay, so it's like yeah. So it might have been your timing might have been bad because it like I think because punk like died like overnight because
it felt like it.
Well, yeah. Well, in other words, whatever happened to the Sex Pistols, that all went to the crap, and people were record companies were getting all, oh, we're not going to invest in this anymore.
Well, here's my take on that if you want it. Because I played CBGBs many times. Mm-hmm. And the Bottom Line, those places I played that. It started, I believe, honestly, when all of a sudden the record companies said to a lot of those bands, it's great, you've got your punk following, but just think of the following you could have with if you could reach the mainstream. So guess what? Hey, Blondie, boom, Talking Heads.
Yeah.
Psycho Killer could be a great single. Ramones even. Ramones paired up, remember, with Phil Spector.
Mm-hmm.
And got was it Rock and Roll High School? They got all that.
Ramones were kind of always had a pop element though.
And dear Patti Smith, you know,
because the night.
Bruce's Because the Night. They started hitting that radio thing, which is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. Okay. But I think that's what helped to kill it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
And started with a song and a look and
So after the A&M years, what happened then?
Oh, those were cold, blustery years. It was freezing. Yes. Me and my band.
We were living out of a station wagon.
You guys too?
I was 12.
we were living out of our stationery, man.
Yeah, right.
Living on paper, right?
Right.
No, actually, after the A&M years, I put together a band which proved to be probably my most popular band in the 80s. Willie Phoenix and the Shadow Lords.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so all the people that were the believers in the A&M record, those fans, and then the new fans. All of a sudden, the Shadow Lords were like just blowing up.
Mhm.
Yeah, the band was blowing up. We had, of course, we did the T-shirt thing. We had 2 albums, plus a double album that became a big kind of like urban legend. Do they really have it or not? Yes, we did. It's still in the can. But the Shadow Lords was opening for everybody for whatever reason would come through Columbus and so forth. And the radio stations were like very in tune to the Shadow Lords. They love the Shadow Lords. And so that band, we last, let's see, the Shadow Lords probably about 84 was really going. And I think we broke up about 87, maybe something like that, perhaps.
Mhm.
And then I put together my psychedelic band, the Flower Machine.
The what?
The Flower Machine.
Flower machine.
Yeah, and it's very psychedelic.
Okay.
And we did an album. I think we did an album. Yeah, it's back there somewhere. But Willie Phoenix Flower Machine.
Okay.
And I was living in the basement of a flower shop, an actual flower shop. And that's how that idea came to me. And so I talked to the owner, and what we would do, some bands would put out their promo schedule on tables. We covered the tables and the floors. We had girls going into the clubs with flowers. And so it's kind of like the 60s again, wherever we went, because then the fans would sit on the floors, they would have flowers in their hands. And it was that sort of like love kind of thing. But the Flower Machine, good band, 3-piece.
Good. How long did that last?
About a minute. The Flower, we went up and down the East Coast for a bit, and then we came home 2 months later. We broke up. The Flower Machine's about 2 years.
Okay. So it was a 3-piece.
Yes.
So that is do you prefer a 3-piece?
I like anything from a 3-piece to like 5. I mean, if it's gonna be a 5-piece, I write 5-piece music, right? Arrangements. If it's gonna be a 3-piece, then you do the same, for according to how many band members, the instruments.
Yeah. Yep. So after the Flower Machine, what
after
happened?
we wilted.
After you went, yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you?
Fun band though.
All right.
That kind of took me into the 90s, and I did my first CD with Willie Phoenix and the True Soul Rockers. I didn't even have a CD player, and my management at the time says, "Well, you're gonna have to get one." So he bought me a CD player, and we did a CD called Radio Simplicity, because I wanted to return again, just real simple, good stand-up music.
Yeah.
Music that you can just play, no frills.
That's
everybody have a good time.
We're talking about 90s, right?
Yes.
That should have been, you should have absolutely, that was the right time to do that.
Yeah, it was.
In other words, how did grunge have an effect on you? Did grunge have an effect on you?
Well, then I was thinking, when grunge came along, I was thinking, oh, already done that with Flower Machine.
Yes.
I was like, okay.
You didn't have all the stuff. Elements of what you always done was kind of grunge.
Right. Yeah. And Nirvana, I really loved them because I could see the influence of, some of my favorite bands, Bowie, Beatles, and their music.
Yeah.
I got past all the screaming and and I knew where it was coming from.
Yeah.
Even Neil Young, I heard some of that.
Mm-hmm.
But the band at the time that I had my first CD with, we were concentrating mostly on wanting people to dig an original band in the club and come out and dance and so forth. So the music, it was straightforward. We had a keyboard player. It was straightforward, but it had a lot of that kind of soul, kind of rock soul thing going, like Otis Redding type feel. Even E Street, I think you can say, because I think Bruce has a lot of that Otis Redding, Sam and Dave.
Absolutely.
You know. So yeah.
That some of the best stuff you can take from the blues is the soul aspect of it.
Yeah. And some people would say like blue-eyed soul, but yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
You know, and it was working for us. But then again, you know, Willie gets like, I get bored with myself, you know. I do. I really do. I get bored with myself. So like a phoenix, you reinvent yourself, you know, new fires and so on.
When did you take on, you weren't born a phoenix, were you?
No. My name, birth name is Craig, like the Irish spell of the tree, Creagh. And boy, that was fun in school. The teachers would go, Willie Craig. And then, of course, some kid would shout out, it's Craig. And the teacher would go, no, Willie Craig. And I'd finally have to speak up and go, it's Craig.
Yeah.
It's Craig.
Hey, Craig.
Craig. Yes.
Okay. So when did Phoenix happen?
Oh.
Like 1960?
Yeah. You know, we have to go. Now we got to go back. We're going back.
68.
No, actually, it went, it happened about 1975. I was watching a film with my friend and bass player, Greg Glasgow. We were watching a film, I think it was called Phantom of the Paradise. It was a play off of what is it? The Phantom of the Opera. Bless you, Brian Sneeze. Phantom of the Opera, and I think the main star was a woman, and her name was Phoenix. And I'm sitting right next to Greg. We're in this empty theater. It's practically empty. And I turned to Greg, and we both had our feet up on the chairs because, you know, the next row of seating. I turned to Greg and I said, hey, I think from now on, my name is going to be Willie Phoenix. And Greg, my best friend Greg, he turns, and he's so used to me and my ideas. He turns, his arms are all folded, and he turns to me and goes, okay. And so it's
like he's sick of your shit. Okay, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was so used to, okay, here's another one. Here we go.
Okay.
And by the way, he was a bass player in that A&M band. He was a bass player in the Buttons. You know, so he goes, okay. Well, then I got to tell you, now that we're back, I got to tell you two very strange things about it. Okay. So we're going to go up to 1979 into 80. So I had heard about, on the radio, I had heard that Joan Armand Trading, you know who Joan is?
I know, yep.
Yes. She was going to play a club that I had been opening with my acoustic for bands. They had these bands, and it's the only way I could get in this club, and they loved me as an opening act. And she was going to come to town and play, and I had heard this wonderful, mysterious, soulful voice, unlike any other I had ever heard. And anybody that has ever heard Joan Armand will say there's only one, and it's a truth. So I remember taking my guitar. I had an ovation at that time, and you know those things are awkward.
She did.
And they're even heavier in their case.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember I stayed on 8th Avenue near High Street in Columbus, and there had been this big snowstorm. And I remember taking my guitar the night that Joan was coming to town, going over to the club, basically walking, running across into Grandview to this club. I had no money for a cab. And I got there and I asked the club owner, I said, hey, can I open? Or does she have? He goes, no, she doesn't have an opening act. You should ask her. And she wasn't there. And so the club owner said, hey, guess what? I've got the number to the guy in New York that booked her. So I call up this guy, and he was like furious that Joan didn't have an opening act. And he said, well, I'll tell you what. He goes, why don't you ask her? Because she's a little kind of touchy, you know. So Joan, I had gotten there, and I was doing my little acoustic thing in a corner, and she had been staring at me and smiling. And so the waitress finally came over and said, hey, Willie, she goes, she wants to know what you're drinking. And I was like, well, I don't drink. She goes, yeah, I know, but she wants to buy you a drink. So I said, okay, just a Coke, So then Joan motioned for me to come over, and I went over and I sat down, introduced myself and everything. And we were talking, and she goes, oh, are you my opening act for the night? And I go, well, I told her the whole story. And boy, she was mad that she did not have an opening act. And she finally said, yeah, of course you can do it. So that night she told me, she goes, I'm going to come back. I'm going to watch you from the side, from the curtains. Are you really good? And I said, well, I said, I don't know. I do my own songs. So I had been playing this place for 2 weeks. And Joan loved what I did, right? So she hands me this card and she says, I want you to get in touch with this guy and tell him that I had, referred you to me. So anyways, going forward, I get signed to A&M and I'm moving because, oh man, I'm signed to A&M. I can get a better apartment. And this card falls out of a box or something. And it said A&M Records. Joan was on A&M and she had referred me to someone at A&M, the head of A&R. Mm-hmm. And here I was signed to A&M, and I had never really looked at the card that she gave me. I was so happy. Oh, I tucked the card away. Now, also go back to that movie that me and my bass player was watching, right?
Willie Phoenix.
And my bass player, we're out in California, and we're recording with the infamous Joe Ciccarelli, who had worked for Frank Zappa, and David Anderley, who had worked with Rita Coolidge and a host of all kinds of people, Chris Christopherson. And my bass player said, well, you remember that movie, you changed your name. It was produced by A&M. He said, remember the credits? And I'm like, oh, I never saw that. But oddly enough, it was a movie where the record company, the promoters were trying to screw Phoenix, the star. Okay. And A&M had produced this movie. So, yeah, real strange Twilight Zone shit.
Right.
Yeah. So,
did you ever
see
Joan again?
I'm sorry?
Did you ever see Joan again?
Yes. She came to Los Angeles to do a concert. And A&M was like, you got to go because the connection with you and Joan, they knew about that connection. My manager had told them. And by the way, the guy that I spoke to on the phone, to ask the New York guy, he later became my manager for the A&M thing.
Okay.
It was all just strange, meant to be,
Right.
So Joan, here's a cool thing about the Joan thing. One of the cool things. It was held, the concert was in Pasadena at a theater there. And A&M was like, well, you got to find a date. This is a big thing. You're going to go in a limo, the whole thing. I didn't know any girls there or whatever. And so they said, name somebody that you like that you would like to be your date for this.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, these guys were always, the producers were always kicking my butt and the guys in the band their butt because we were from the Midwest, you know. Mm-hmm. You guys are corn fed from the, so I just pulled out. I said, how about Joni Mitchell? And so I get this call. And I got a call, and it was a person representing Joni Mitchell. I'm like, you're kidding me. And so what happened was Joni Mitchell in a limo pulls up with her chauffeur looking just like her album covers. Mm-hmm. And the chauffeur opens the door. And for the first time, I meet Joni Mitchell. And we're sitting in the back and just talking about, you know, the whole 60s thing and everything. Mm-hmm. And what a beautiful, beautiful down-to-earth person.
That's wonderful.
Beautiful.
Yes.
So she was my date for that.
Well, that's wonderful. I would have. Yeah.
And so Joni said, let's go backstage and talk to Joan. And I'm like, oh, well, she won't remember me. She goes, oh yeah. She goes, we're like sisters. So we went backstage as a host of press people and so forth. The place, I mean, backstage, a huge backstage, roses, flowers, you know, for Joan Armatrading. So somehow Joni Mitchell and I got, you know, separated. Mm-hmm. And my manager comes up, we're like standing alone. And then I see Joan Armatrading and Joni Mitchell going, and Billboard was there and People's Magazine, all these, they're all taking pictures. I'm like, come on, you're going to be in the pictures with us. So got there, got my picture all taken with them. Joan Armatrading and I were talking, and Joni Mitchell, and we're just,
she remembered
a great time. She remembered.
Yeah, she absolutely remembered you.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Yes, she did. Yeah. And just an amazing meet between two amazing talents. I mean, come on. I mean, really, you know, how many lifetimes has that ever happened?
What?
You know? And between the two Jones, you know.
Well, I think part of this thing is you throw your best stuff out there. And at some point the stars align and the world is ready to accept what it is.
Right. Whatever it is. You're right.
And then if you can hold on to it, that's great. But it's not always up to you.
Well, yeah, it's like, you know what? The stars and the skies are like, It's like Vegas.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
It's all a crapshoot.
Yeah.
You know.
And you're lucky if the stars align. And when it does happen, hopefully you're grateful. When it's happening, well, probably spooky.
Right. And for me, each time, no matter what phase or part of my professional life or personal life, I've been blessed with the ability to, ouch, that hurts a little bit, but it's kind of like, it's a pinprick because I know, well, you know what? You got to get off the floor. You were born to make music.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the end of the world.
Yes.
I'm not saying that like any other human being. Yes, it stings a bit. You know, you can be depressed, but you know, what the hell, man? You know, you're not the first person nor the last person this will ever happen to. You know, there are people right now finding out they're not on a label anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Or whatever. And to those people, you know, hopefully they will be resilient enough and believe in themselves enough and just say, okay, all right, I'm going to keep pushing it.
Can you make the best of that? In other words, I think there's probably ways that you can make the best of that.
Oh, yeah.
Your energy, in other words, yeah. You've been creative all your life, so if you had gone to A&M for 15 albums,
Right.
would
Right.
would they allow you to do what you wanted to do?
Right. Right. Right.
So what you weren't a drinker?
No,
Never?
never.
That's cool.
Not a smoker, not a drinker.
That is
Not a
cool.
smoker, not a toker.
That you're straight edge before straight edge.
Yes.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
Because not there's and as I do, that you're a rarity.
Yeah, I've been told that many, many, many times.
For multiple reasons, I'm sure, but in that alone, that is that has kept you alive for certain.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and both my parents, they used to drink, and then they found religion, they found God, and they stopped all of that before they passed away.
Okay.
So I grew up in a household where, there was alcohol, and
Yeah.
I just decided, nah.
Yeah.
But and I don't look down at other people that drink or smoke or whatever. That would be kind of silly. I'm playing in bars.
I was gonna, yeah.
It'd be quite foolish,
If you find yourself being in a room full of people that you can't respect, then you probably should probably find a new line of work.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Muddy Waters.
Yes.
You jammed with Muddy Waters?
Yes, and John Lee Hooker.
John Lee Hooker. Tell me.
Which story do you want first?
Muddy Waters.
Really? Okay.
Want them both.
Well, the Muddy Waters thing this happened in '76, I believe. He was at Bogart's Cafe in Cincinnati. At Bogart's. And my manager at the time had said, "Hey man, let's go see Muddy Waters, and I know your dad knew him. Maybe you can get backstage, and who knows? Maybe you can jam with Muddy." And I'm like, I was totally against it because I'm not one of those people that go and I have some friends this way that I always tease them and say, "You're gonna go and crash somebody's gig in hopes of jamming?" I didn't mind. I told him, I said, "Look, what I'll do is I will go because I want to see Muddy perform."
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So he got the tickets. Unbeknownst to me, he had put my Stratocaster in the trunk of his car, my manager. And we got there, and immediately, of course, I'm that I don't know. I showed you that A&M cover.
Yeah.
So that was my high school band jacket. So I had that band jacket on, and my dreads were just starting to grow at that time. Had no shirt on, these tight jeans. All of a sudden, the crowd before the show started, I'm talking to these women. They actually came up and talked to me, surprisingly enough. But so then my manager comes back and he's like, I'm like, "Where have you been?" Because he was gone for a while. Man, he's all out of breath. "Hey man, Muddy wants to meet you, man. He wants to meet you." I'm like, "What?" And so I go backstage or to the dressing room or dressing area, resting area, whatever. And it was like I was transported back into the late 50s, 60s. And these guys, man, they had their like shark skin, like jackets, some of them on. And these guys talk about cool. I always said after that Muddy and his band were the original Rolling Stones.
Of course.
The bad boys, right?
Yeah.
We know even the Stones got their name from a Muddy song.
Yeah.
So, and there was
Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger was a student of economics.
Oh yeah.
When he discovered Muddy Waters. That's how blues Mick Jagger originally was, but he he's inspired by it, but yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So Muddy and his piano player, Pine Top Perkins, was sitting in a booth, and my manager brought me over, and Muddy had me sit right beside him, and we started talking, and he goes, so you Willie James's boy? And I go, yeah, I go, yeah, blah blah blah, and you play guitar, and I go, yeah, I play a little bit, and Pine Top Perkins, he goes, oh, I bet the piano player goes, oh, I bet he could play his little butt off. He got the right skin color. And they were laughing and everything. So we talked a little bit, and Muddy goes, well, I'm not feeling that well tonight. He goes, I doubt if we'll bring you up on stage to jam. And I go, oh, that's fine. I didn't care. I'm sitting beside Muddy Waters, and across from me is Pine Top Perkins.
Is praising you.
Yeah. The other musicians are coming up. Oh, who's this? Hey, this is Willie James, So I go back out into the crowd, and I find those girls. We're all talking and so forth. The band comes on, everybody's cheering, and they're playing their songs. I mean, they are just kicking it. Meanwhile, I've cornered some girl, and I'm talking to her, and there was announcements being made, and this other girl goes, I think they're talking about you. I'm like, what? And Muddy was saying, he goes, good little black boy, got an army jacket on. That's what he's saying. Get him up here. Yeah. And people were pushing me through the crowd. I'm like, I get backstage past security, and I go, I don't have my guitar. And they said, well, get your guitar. I said, it's like about 4 blocks away in the car, and I'm left-handed. So his guitar player, one of them, I think it was Pee-wee someone, I think, he said, I'm left-handed, you can play my guitar. I'm like, no, you have your guitar strung the right way for a left-handed. I said, I just flip over a right-handed guitar and I play it left-handed.
Now, how in the hell did you learn to play like that?
Huh?
How did you learn to play like that?
Well, my dad was right-handed, but his dad taught him. He played the way I play. So he taught my dad, and my dad taught me. And it's kind of looking in a mirror, so to speak. So is it Bob Margolian?
Oh, yeah. I interviewed him.
He was the lead player.
Oh,
Bob was the lead player. So Bob said, grab one of my guitars. Hurry up.
Yeah.
These are professional people. Yeah. They're waiting on me. Muddy Waters is waiting on me to get shipped. So I grabbed one of Bob's Strats. And so Bob showed me where to stand. And I had to stand in line with them. Muddy's on a stool. And he's got his red Telecaster and slide. And he said, Bob told me, he goes, now when Muddy wants you to play, he'll motion for you to play. And, you just step one step up and you do your solo and you step back. So I said, got it. So anyways, came my turn to play. I'll never forget, it was on 40 Days and 40 Nights. And I knew the song because my dad, that was one of the songs his band would play. And so Muddy's sitting there, and instead of him just motioning for me to play, he's like doing like this for me to come up with him. So I get up there, and meanwhile, of course, I had a little fan club that had made their way to the front row. Mm-hmm. And these girls, they were like, oh, yelling my name. And so Muddy said, come on, boy, play. And I got ahead of Muddy to the edge of the stage, fell on my knees, playing my guitar, and the girls started screaming and all this stuff. And then I stepped back, and Bob said to me, he goes, don't you ever try and upstage Muddy again. I go, I wasn't. He told me to do it. I was scared. And Bob was all mad and everything, you know. And so Muddy motions for me again. This time, I stood beside him and I played the guitar behind my back, you know, over my head.
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, and Bob was, he was just really. And I tried to explain afterwards. And so anyway, so afterwards, Muddy and Pine Top asked me if I would go to Buffalo, New York with them that night. They said, don't worry about a thing. We'll take care of it, you know. And I didn't. And if I knew I was going to talk about this, I should have brought Muddy tore off a bag, a brown paper bag, and he wrote his personal home number. And he said, I want you to come to Chicago. He says, call me. He says, I want you to come to Chicago. We'll jam. I'll feed you. You know, my wife will cook greens and all this stuff. We'll just hang out.
Yeah.
Right?
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Now, I didn't do it. And the next time that I was on A&M at after a couple of years or so, I didn't do it. And so Muddy was in town, and I wanted to go see him, but unfortunately, that same day, I'm leaving on tour to hook up with Bryan Adams for our band to open. A&M had arranged that. And so I wrote Muddy a note, and one of my roadies took it down to the small club he was playing. I think it was the Underground. It's called the Underground along High Street. And he wrote a little note back, and that was it. Because next thing I know, he had passed away. Yeah. But yeah, he had invited me.
Did Muddy ever say anything about you upstaging him?
No, okay. Muddy. A matter of fact, they were like, oh, you know, you're this and that.
Yeah.
And he said, he invited me. He goes, we want you to come to Buffalo. I want you to come to Buffalo with us.
Yeah.
We're headed to Buffalo.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it. I was like, I don't have clothes. They said, don't worry about it. I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
You know. So I did not go. But then he wrote down his all of his personal information.
Yeah.
And said this. He told me when the tour would be over.
Yeah.
And then give him a call.
That's
I still have it. Of
course.
Muddy Waters inviting me.
You're not going to throw that away.
No, never. Yeah.
So John Lee Hooker.
John Lee Hooker. I was in Canada, going back again. Probably 71. I don't know.
Did
Toronto?
You know Willie James?
Toronto, Canada. Huh?
Did John Lee know Willie James?
No.
Okay.
This was me in Toronto, and we had done a show at one of the universities, maybe York University, anyways, or college or whatever. And the agent had said, look, we had John Lee Hooker in town tonight too. Do you want to go to his birthday party at one of the hotels? Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, sure, you know. So me and my band, we went, and somehow a jam had got going in one of the suites, John Lee's, I believe. And somebody said to me, because John Lee was on the bed, one of the beds, playing something or whatever. And somebody said to me, really, man, jam with him. And John Lee said, yeah, go ahead, pick up the guitar. So I picked up an acoustic, and we sat there on the bed playing for all these people, you know. And I don't know, played several numbers. I just kind of backed him up, because this playing, it seems like would be hard for me, but I was used to, as I'd said before, as a little kid, backing my dad up. And sometimes those blues guys, they change chords when they want to, the way they're feeling.
Well,
I was kind of like that.
their voice.
I was kind of,
It's something that matches their voice. It's like they've.
yeah. They'll be going, oh, babe, what I know that all now, baby. You got to be there, when that change happens, or else you're going to look like the fool, not those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but that was
you adapt to your situation.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. They're the star, and you grab the guitar to back them up. So, you gotta hang or put the guitar down
or get off the stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, John Lee, he's badass, and that voice again. And by the way, Muddy, all these guys, both of those men had what I call tremendous gospel preacher voices. They could just take a word, and like when Hendrix would sustain or hammer a guitar, they could take one word and it would just linger with you, as you well know. But just the way they did it.
Yeah.
Just the way they did it.
That's something you can teach. I think it's
it's got to be in you, like BB King.
Yeah,
I've opened for BB, BB, and talked to him for on his bus for about an hour and a half. Me and BB.
So what does that discussion look like?
And that was like what, maybe 2000 and what, 8, 7. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It was in the 2000s.
Okay.
But one of the nicest men, performers, just human beings, BB King.
Yes.
Just a nice, beautiful person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a great player.
Yes. Yes, and his blues changed.
Yes.
Yes. He started off in the 40s, even earlier than that, with his first thing was jump blues.
Right. Like T-Bone Walker.
Yeah,
like T-Bone Walker.
He had the big bus and the barrage of people, like horn sections, big horn sections.
Yeah.
He was you say T-Bone Walker.
Yeah. Working on a stormy Monday.
Every so many years he reinvents himself. Right.
Well, what helped BB, besides the British cats digging him like Clapton and so forth and Mayall, The Thrill Is Gone, baby. When that hit, I'm gonna tell you, what? All of a sudden people were like going, blues with strings?
Right.
Well,
those are the albums. Those are the albums.
I mean,
some of my favorite BB albums. Like that rhythm section.
Yeah.
Jerry Dumont and Herbie Lovell.
Right.
The rhythm sections on that, it's like they're trying to play this BB on that, but they have a rhythm section that are essentially kind of youngish kids, not kids, but like early 20s with hip to the new sounds, and like that's some of the best stuff. Right. Well, we're used to I think blues with strings coming from like a female artist like Etta James. Yes.
Like Etta James.
At last you expect it.
Yeah, and all of a sudden here comes BB with The Thrill Is Gone. And I love that song, the Leon Russell song. Is it Hummingbird?
Yeah.
I love that song from that same album.
Yep.
With the strings.
Yep.
Oh, and I could never figure out, are they talking about the hummingbird guitar? Or literally a hummingbird? There's
probably some mythological thing about the hummingbird itself.
Okay.
So I can't, yeah. some sort of mythological. Now I got to look it up.
Right.
So,
But you know, Gibson had a guitar called Hummingbird, right?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I just wonder, coming from Leon Russell, who was a good guitar player and a great piano player.
Yeah. So the thing also about BB and Muddy Waters is blues takes on many different forms. Blues evolve.
Right.
Like Muddy Waters comes to Chicago, he still has his acoustic instrument.
Yeah.
Okay, so reinventing yourself, the idea of reinvention.
Right. He had to adapt to the big city.
Of course.
They're already using
the sounds of the big city. Yeah. Yep. Big city's loud.
Yes.
It would not be heard. But
that's right. That's right.
Reinvention, because I think that's some of the stuff that's lost, and a lot of blues players is they think they just have to, and all due respect, because I think Stevie Ray Vaughan's an original. He's a combination of all the blues guys.
Yes.
Plus Hendrix, plus Kenny Burrell, Wes Montgomery.
Right.
But when he has all the people, all they do is copy him. They're not getting the fact that the blues is about finding your sound and then reinvention. Reinvention.
I agree. I firmly agree.
In more recent times, your songwriting is just kind of really taken. You've been spending a lot of time putting out CDs. What are you doing recently? What have you been doing
with the CDs?
Yes.
Well, like in the because of COVID, we put out about 5 CDs in 1 year, and that's even unheard of for bands that are on the gigantic international stage.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to just lie dormant. I wanted my band to still have some sort of bridge of communication with our fans.
Yes.
And keep the band, viable,
What's the history of your band now? Like I say that
meaning
you met them, and how long have you guys been playing together?
Oh, we've been together several years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. About 7 years.
Okay.
Yep. Good band. I've got my man Chuck Birchfield on bass, plays the bass guitar.
Yeah.
And Stephen Day Carter on drums, Stephen Day Carter on drums. Yeah. And yours truly, but great players.
Back to trio.
Yes, that's the trio. Back to the trio.
Yeah. So what's the songwriting process for you guys?
Well, I write a song or two or several and bring it to the band, and we work out arrangements, obviously from my head. If I want the song to be a bit more countrified, then I steer them into that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so far it's been working really good. I mean, they're both excellent players, guys that have played in studios for years and live situations too.
Yeah.
And that always helps.
Mm-hmm.
Help. I need somebody. No, not mine. Lennon McCartney.
I understand a little Beatles. Yes.
Yeah.
And how important is improvisation? Like for your rhythm section, how important is improvisation for your stuff?
There's a thing. It's like we set up, we have the format for the song, and you've got the framework for the song, and we learn that blah 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 blah. Now, some songs are meant to be 2 minutes and 40 seconds, so it goes back to a whole British invasion early thing, like the Beatles. Take your solo, Willie, back to the microphone, right? And then other songs, like I have a song called "The Sun," and there's another one called "Back to the Fillmore." That gives us a chance to stretch out. Kind of like what we would do on Gloria.
Yeah.
7 minutes. And then I let them, I give them that freeway to do a bit of jamming, you know, kind of like a jam band thing.
Yeah.
But
That's kind of
with some sort of organization to it.
It's still got that garagey kind of thing going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you come back to that, or did you never leave that?
I don't think I ever left it. I mean, I'm that type of guy. If I write a song that is supposed to be a slick version of itself in the studio, I make sure that happens. In other words, the garage thing is always underneath. It's my soul underneath what I do. Okay. But I can also, if it's a love song and it needs to be really pretty, then I'm going to make it pretty. I'm going to put strings there. I'm going to put maybe horns if it needs it, piano, you know, but always beneath everything, it has to have that raw sugar, right?
Right.
Raw sugar.
Mm-hmm. You're also, are you producing another act?
Yeah.
Ahead?
A group called 10 Ahead.
Yeah.
With Kim Crawford. She's a singer, songwriter, guitarist. And good band. Really good band. Alternative.
Okay.
But what is alternative today? But you know.
Yeah. Alternative to what?
Well, they remind me that this band. I think one of the reasons I love them so much is they remind me of the CBGB's period that the Buttons went through.
Yeah.
That sound, that sort of thing.
So what is your involvement with this band? Getting them into the studio, or just
getting into the studio and working with them. We have our first session in April, perhaps. But I've been working with the music, the foundation, you know. I call it from the street level first.
Right. So what does a producer mean to you? What is the job of a producer?
Well, it can be almost anything from arranging the songs, or if the band's got really cool, tight arrangements, just making sure, along with the engineer, that they're getting the sound that they want onto tape or gigabytes or whatever it is now.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing. Or just there, because I've produced bands where bands have brought me in just to get someone motivated to play parts that maybe even the leader of the band want them to play. But hey, Willie, we'll pay you to come in and sit in on the session. They'll take advice from you, but not from other band members. You know?
I get that. I feel that.
Yeah, just you know what I'm saying, man? Just to be the monitor, right?
Yeah.
The guy that
nobody wants to be told what to do. Like if you're close in a band thing, and it's like, but if there's somebody like yourself, they respect.
Right.
Right. Now, how important is it? What are your thoughts on like the way stuff is being recorded these days? Are you all about keeping things on the grid, or do you
What? Okay. I think progress is great. It's beautiful. It's wonderful, right?
Right.
I mean, because we mustn't let ourselves forget that Sun Studios recorded Elvis, and then all of a sudden he gets Colonel Tom Parker's signs a deal. He's at RCA, where they had to have a bit more than Sun Studios had.
Yes.
With the technology and the expertise, even. Now, some people would argue, the purists, whatever that means, would say, yes, Sun Studios, man, that was the best stuff, right?
Well, I agree.
Okay, or whatever. Yeah, and maybe it was. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I loved it all.
Yeah.
But then again, you look at like the Beatles, 3-track, 4-track recording, then into the 8-track thing. Today's music, I think, as far as the technology
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great. But I think also people become a slave to the technology. They become a slave to it.
I
And
agree.
I think I don't agree with that. Not to become a slave. Use it as much as you want, but when you find yourself allowing the machine or the software to dictate uh, too many times what the mood is going to be, the outcome of the mood.
Yeah.
Like I said, I like that raw sugar, man.
Yeah. Well, okay. So now
Yeah.
here's the one thing. Musicians these days are not used to living in a world without autotune or
Oh, I know. I
beat
know.
correction. So probably the thing, the one of the biggest things we could offer, and I'm talking like a boomer now, but
Uh-huh.
I've been
Yeah.
I've been accused of that,
Boom, baby, boom.
but getting in a room and jamming,
Right,
learning how to jam, learning how to get
right.
your songs for jamming. That's
And
kind of
learning how to sing. Learn how to sing, people.
yeah,
Learn how to sing. You
yeah.
know, a lot of the records that a lot of people love, they don't really realize a lot of the anguish as well as joy that went into making those records. I mean, like I remember like A&M, if I sang something off key, a bit off key, oh, you did it until you got it right. There was no auto tune.
Right.
You were the auto tune.
Right.
Your expertise, your professionalism.
But jamming in a room, it's like, I'm kind of like opening up to all possibilities, but
Right, right.
the idea of people being able to jam, it's a harder and harder thing to do because it's a different world.
Well, if people wanted a really good lesson as to what it was once like, just watch the Beatles Get Back.
Oh yeah,
You know,
another church moment.
McCartney and Lennon and Harrison had no auto tune.
Right, right. They practiced the song 90 times until they got it right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And you know, the thing is, like I said earlier, I uh, grew up also singing in the church and singing with my family. So that was practice. And I knew when I was like off pitch, off key or something. And then I would even say, I'm telling you, even at A&M, and when I also recorded for RCA in Canada, I had even the producers and engineers go, "Oh, that's okay. We'll just." I'm like, "No, I was off key.
Yeah.
I want to sing this again," and they go, "Okay," and I nail it. It's it's a thing.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Uh,
And
I would like to,
it's a lost thing that I'm still
yeah, and
like, yeah, let's I don't know. I like shine a light on that. Shine a light on that. The ability to do that, to be able to do it without there's a lot, and I don't know if it's even possible to you want Pandora's box, but
right,
you
right,
open up the box
and don't get me wrong. I don't think auto tune is wrong, bad.
mm-hmm.
But like I said, when people start allowing the technology to lead them by the nose,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep. So high
laziness sometimes.
yes. Well, yeah.
Push the button, and we double the voice.
Yeah, no, you got to double the voice.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, High Street. Back to High Street. People who aren't aware of the Columbus, Ohio, not that many people, and I have a street named after him. So
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
how did all that happen? How did all that happen? And that's wonderful. It did happen.
Well, actually, I was told my understanding is that Colin Gual from Watershed, fabulous pop rock and roll band,
Mm-hmm.
power pop. Anyways, Colin, who's a friend and always been a big if you want to say fan, that's what Colin always says.
Mhm.
He got the ball rolling. I didn't know, people signing this and that. I didn't, you know. So it was like a big surprise, even for me,
Mhm.
when it, you know, uh, became, when it was, for real. I didn't know what's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
Well,
and it was an honor. I mean, for real, for sure.
yes, that's wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful that this stuff happens while you're still alive too.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
so many times we praise people after.
Well, that was one of the things I had said to one of the council members. I said, "Oh, me?" I said, "I
Not
didn't die, did I?" Hey, I said, "I didn't die, did I?" I was like, "Wait, I'm not a war hero. I'm not a
you know,
politician."
but here the thing is, we should have a new look on what the creative performer, the creative artist does for the community. And the fact that the Columbus, Ohio music scene is such a tight knit and everybody knows each other. And from what I see, they're supportive of one another. And it's,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and the fact, I don't know, it's like that something's right with the world when this happens is what I'm trying to get at, because it's you know what I mean? Because as I said, it's usually it happens when people die, and that's not. I'm glad you're still around.
For real. For real. Yep. Yep.
Yes.
And it was a big honor.
Yeah.
And thanks, Colin, and everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's super cool to see, and well, that is it. Space blues, songwriter, gospel chops on the voice, straight edge before straight edge happened. You got some blues. You got some. It's a mixture of every. I think the best music is that mixtures. And thank you, Willie.
No, thank you.
Yeah,
And
I will always I will always sing your praises to whoever
oh, oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Now, what time are we going to do the interview?
So we are yeah, we will next
Are we
time
going to do an interview?
when we talk next time I'll press record.
Okay. All right. Cool. Had fun. Love you, man.
Alrighty.
All right, baby.
All right.